Adam Fox was getting absolutely grilled after his poor performance in the Eastern Conference Finals, but we finally have the truth behind his poor play at the tail end of the playoffs, and it might surprise you to find out what happened. Welcome back to Rangers Digest. My name is Darius Domingues, and guys, we've noticed that about 80% of you watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button right now so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. We got free agency coming up. We got the draft coming up just before then, and obviously next season. It's going to be a big one for the Rangers. It's going to be really exciting, so stay tuned for everything that has to do with the Rangers. And it's a fun time in New York right now. Obviously, all fans wish that the Rangers were in the finals, but right now there's a lot going on. There's a lot coming out, and we'll get into our first bit of information, which was some pretty big news. And the first big news drop from the Rangers regarding injuries, that wasn't Jacob Trouba, and this was one we were waiting for. This is Adam Fox, and he played with a mild MCL strain in the playoffs, and that is from Molly Walker, who had the story, and we'll get into it as we go along here. Again, this is from Molly Walker, and Adam Fox played on a mild MCL strain in the playoffs that obviously occurred in the first round of the playoffs. And now this offers a little bit of clarity for, New York Rangers fans into his play. Obviously, something wasn't right with Adam Fox. I mean, just watching the games, you knew that something was not right with this player because he's a really great player, an elite defenseman in the NHL, right? Year in, year out. And obviously something just wasn't right with him in this playoff run after this moment, but especially you could see he was almost running out of gas in a way in the Eastern Conference Final. And, the New York Rangers as a whole didn't look great in that finals against the Florida Panthers. So, you can't just pin it all on Adam Fox, but at least we have some clarity into what he was dealing with. And obviously it wasn't a tear. We'll get into that as well. It was a strain. So, it's nice to at least know what was happening with Adam Fox throughout the playoffs. So it's nice to get some clarity. And as you can see from Molly here as well, Adam Fox was not the same after the injury, the knee-on-knee against Nick Jensen of the Washington Capitals in the first round. And after scoring 7 goals and dishing 15 assists in the final 18 games of the regular season, Fox was limited to just 8 assists in 16 playoff games. And of course, it's harder to score in the playoffs, we know this, but an offensively minded player like Adam Fox, and we know the numbers he usually puts up and how dominant he is at sometimes, it just wasn't like him. And you can tell shift by shift. You can't just look at the stats. You can tell shift by shift this player was not exactly the same. This is a great article as well, so I'm not going to dive into every single aspect of it. You can go check it out online as well. Finally, some insight into this injury, but the injury, again, was re-aggravated, which was an injury he previously had. So obviously this is not a tear or anything you could get, I guess, surgically repaired. And not that the Rangers would want that anyway. This is something he could technically play on, but obviously discomfort. And he didn't really make any excuses as well, which is great. We'll get into that as well. But he re-aggravated it in game 4 of round 1. Like I mentioned, he kept Fox off the ice for a few days between the first and second round series for what the team described as maintenance purposes, but obviously we now know he was, gearing up for it the next round. And you know what? This is from Dan Rosen as well. And Adam Fox wasn't really making excuses, which I thought was great too. He said that the same knee he hurt in November was re-aggravated in this hit in the Washington series. It limited him. He did not use this as an excuse. He was ready to play. He knew he could be better, but there were points in the playoffs where he was tentative. And this is something I talked about in a video yesterday in terms of Jacob Trouba. When you have an injury like that, you become more tentative. It does affect your decision. It does affect your decision making because you're constantly thinking about the injury. Can I move this way? Will this hurt? If I move this way and I end up getting checked, is it going to affect my knee? You're thinking about these things constantly, whereas if you weren't injured, you're not thinking about these things as much, right? So it was absolutely a factor, I think, for this player. I know he's not going to make the excuses, which is great. You love to see that from the New York Rangers player, and obviously a great player, a huge part of this team, but it obviously limited him. So I'm glad we got, some look into what happened here. And as you can see here as well, Adam Fox was reluctant to make any excuses, but eventually when pressed, he admitted that the knee-on-knee collision with Nick Jensen, and of course this was after the game, in the first round, re-aggravated that knee injury that kept him out earlier this season. But obviously he doesn't anticipate needing any off-season procedures or surgeries or anything like that. So you'll probably just be able to rehab it and get back to it next season. And he has quite some time off now to get that going. So that's a good thing. And I just like that he didn't make any excuses, he got the injury, it re-aggravated the injury. He could play on it. He did his best, and he did put in some good work. Honestly, he had some great games after that injury still. And, you know, obviously was a huge part of the Rangers team in the second round series against Carolina. So I just love that he didn't make excuses. He got back onto it, and he kept playing. And it wasn't an injury that was enough to keep him out. But for sure, and I know the whole argument, you know, if somebody gets injured, I saw the whole argument with Jacob Trouba. If somebody gets injured, you'd rather have somebody who's 100% come in, even though he's a good player. But if he's injured, he's not giving you 100%, right? I hear that argument. But at the same time, this is a great player, Adam Fox. And, you know, it is making your decision-making on the ice a little bit different and difficult because you're constantly thinking of your injury. You're not playing as free-flowing. So, yes, I hear the arguments, right? I still think he's a great player. Probably should have been playing, right? Because it's not an injury that would keep you out like a tear or anything. There is discomfort, and I do think it affects your decision-making, but that's hockey, man. And it's always been this way. So it's just the way it is. If you're good enough to go, you are going to play. That is just hockey at this point. And obviously you can see here, this was the hit. It was a pretty brutal hit and, you know, untimely hit. And the Caps kind of knew that they were going to be eliminated. So say what you want about it, but ugly hit. And we'll get into some other stuff now. So a couple quotes and obviously Adam Fox's stats we'll get into. Adam Fox had just returned to his top form when a deja vu neon knee hit with the Capitals defenseman Nick Jensen in the first round of the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs re-aggravated the injury he sustained earlier in the season, and it caused the mild MCL sprain, as we mentioned. To say it was a tear would be inaccurate, according to a source, but anyone with eyes could see that the 26-year-old defenseman was hindered for a majority of the Rangers' run to the Eastern Conference Final. And of course, that again is from Molly Walker. And I mean, if we take a look at his regular season stats, you know, everyone knows Adam Fox is a great player. 73 points in 72 games. He's over a point a game player. He didn't play the full season, of course, because of the injury. Logs a ton of minutes. I mean, he averages almost 24 minutes of ice time a game. Plays so much for this team. Such an important part of this team in all areas of the ice. Can be physical when he needs to be, still relatively young. I mean, he is a huge part of this team, and obviously when he's not 100%, the team is going to feel it. All right, so let me know what you thought of the injury to Adam Fox. If it was noticeable, it was very noticeable to me watching the games, especially as the games went along in the Eastern Conference Final. You can kind of see him running out of gas, and of course, like I said, the mental game, battling an injury like that. So let me know what you think of the injury, and I don't think this really affects their free agency plans too much, based on, you know, his bad performance, or quote unquote bad performance. It wasn't even that bad. I still think he put in some good games, was due to a pretty significant injury, right? So we got some clarity on that. So let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, remember to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.